the chat. Whatever is easiest for everybody is totally fine. I'm super chill and would love to go this however is easiest for everybody. So first of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Karis Wilson, and I am the program coordinator for our Elevate program and Project Patriot program. I work for a company called Brooksource, and we are an IT staffing company. I am located in our Indianapolis office, but we also have 29 different locations nationally. So I know a lot of you are here local, but if you are ever interested in positions elsewhere, most of the other offices have a program coordinator just like me, who are very focused on individuals who have about 0 to 3 years of professional IT experience, and we help source for positions in that realm. Just wanted to very quickly kind of run through this before we get into everything so everybody knows who I am. But we sourced for about 12 different companies here in the Indianapolis area, and I specifically help source for roles for Roche Diagnostics, Anthem, Eli Lilly, IU Health, Finish Line, State of Indiana, Rolls-Royce, Simon Property Group, RCI, Wyndham, Crow, and Car Global. And we hire for different positions like business analytics, project coordinators, data analysts, software development, security, help desk, desktop, anything really in the IT realm I'm hiring for. But obviously the reason that I'm here today is to help you guys out with getting ready for virtual career fairs, virtual interviewing, and just kind of navigating this virtual world that we have. So wanted to kind of set you guys up. The first thing you're is before the career fair is to set yourself up for success by developing a strong resume. That's something that I can help with. There are also, I'm sure, resources on campus through Ivy Tech, but make sure that before you go into your career fair that you have your resume all set up and ready to present to the different recruiters and hiring managers and employers that you're going to be speaking with. That's probably one of the first things they're going to ask you for or have you follow up with is going to be a copy of your resume. So make sure that you have that on file, you have it all up to date with your most recent experience, the different classes that you've taken or any projects that you have. Like I said, I can help out with that. So if you have any questions, obviously reach out to Jessica or myself to get my contact information, and I can help out with any questions that you might have regarding your resume. The next thing that you're going to want to do is research the different organizations that are going to the career fair. There are going to be tons of different organizations that have different types of opportunities, and a lot of them will probably even have posted the types of roles that they're hiring for. So do a little bit of research, see what companies are going to be there that might be hiring for the different kinds of jobs that you're interested in, and then do a little bit of research on the different things that they're doing right now. It's very helpful when you have conversations that you can show that you know a little bit about them. They don't have to go all the way through kind of their pitch about the company. Just showing that you did a little research is always impressive. Then you can kind of go in with a game plan as well of what companies you want to make sure that you talk to, and then maybe a couple of other companies that if you have time that you can hop into their chat rooms or however your virtual career fair is running to just kind of touch base with those companies if you have time, or just ones that maybe look interesting to you that you don't know about. Those are also great to just, check out their website, see what they're doing. The next thing that you're going to want to do is make sure you're prepared with what you're going to wear. I think this is probably general knowledge, but virtual career fairs are just like any other career fairs. So you want to dress professionally. Dependent on the type of career fair that is, you might not need to wear like a suit or anything like that, but definitely a nice shirt. Maybe something like with a collar or, just making sure that you are cleaned up, looking good, just like you would if you were going to be going into a regular career fair, meeting people in person. Your first impression is still going to be very important. The next thing, which I think this is a very important piece that people do forget about, cleaning up your social media. If you need to, just make it private. That's the easiest way to do it. Make sure that you have a professional picture. It doesn't have to be a professional portrait, but make sure that you don't have anything that you wouldn't want a hiring manager to see in that information that they can see just by looking up your name on Google or typing your name into Facebook. I'm a recruiter, and I'll tell you that I've done it before to look up individuals and just see. And it does tell a little bit about you. So if you don't want people to see what you have on your Facebook or your Instagram, just make it private. And the most important thing, though, is going to be to update your LinkedIn profile. they are going to probably look you up. You'll also might want to connect with them. So make sure that your LinkedIn profile is completely filled out and up to date. You're going to want to make sure that you have a picture of you up there so that they're going to, connect. Oh, I met them at the career fair. I know who that is. When you send them a connection, that'll already be, they'll accept and probably reach out as well. So make sure that you're updated with your current academic status. So are you currently a student at Ivy Tech? Have you already graduated from Ivy Tech? Do you have your degree? Are you currently taking classes? Just making sure that all that information is up to date because that is sometimes telling on whether or not you're able to accept a full-time job at this point, or if you need to finish up some different things before you can accept a position, or you're going to be looking, different things like that. I would also include all the information that you have on your resume so you can update your LinkedIn profile with individual sections for each position that you've had. And you can upload all of the job details about that role as well, just like you would in your resume with bullet points on what you did and what you were responsible for. I always think that a LinkedIn profile should be pretty much a copy of your resume, if not with a little bit more information. I would definitely say for a lot of people, if you're just kind of starting out in IT, your resume is going to be a little closer to one page, but your LinkedIn profile can include, a lot more information about you. You can include different things about your interests. You can join different groups and get connected with different networks of people who are in the area or interested in the same types of things of you, especially anything that you might be studying in school that you're really interested in. The next thing that you're going to want to do is practicing your pitch, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but making sure that you've just mentally prepared yourself for going into the career fair. Make sure that you have maybe like a cup of water around, just really making sure that when you go in, you're ready to talk. A career fair virtually is just like a career fair anywhere else. So if you've attended other career fairs, you don't need to be more nervous for this one. It's going to be the same thing. They're going to ask the same types of questions. And if anything, it's probably going to be a little bit more relaxed because everyone is a little bit confused about being virtual. So just go in with a good attitude and ready to kind of roll with the punches, because sometimes technology doesn't work the way that you think it does. And sometimes it's not going to, come out perfectly. The timing's not going to be perfect, but just go in with a good attitude and a smile and ready to kind of, introduce yourself to others and have a big smile on your face as well. So during the career fair, the first thing you want to do is set yourself up for a very strong first impression. All they can do is see you on the screen. They're not going to be able to see all of your body language, anything like that. So the first thing you want to do is set up a good location to be in an environment that you can control. So that means being in probably a quiet room with no distractions or background noise, making sure that you don't have running around or, crazy things going on in the background, like flickering lights or anything like that. Try to be in a controlled location. If you're going to be in a house with other people, just let them know that you are going to be doing a virtual career fair. Hey, don't come knock on the door for a little while. I'm going to be pretty busy. Let people know. Oh, is there things in the chat here? So sorry.
I'm just saying hi to everybody.
Okay, perfect. Let me know if I miss anything. I'll keep the chat open.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on the chat and I'll interrupt if I need to. Okay.
Perfect. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm your wingman.
Love it. Love it. Try to avoid having a lot of distracting things in your background. Even just like a messy room can be a bit of a turnoff to recruiters. That's going to be the first thing that they see of you. So just make sure that whatever's behind you is not distracting them from you yourself. So if you have like a lot of, like crazy posters or anything like that on your wall, just try to find a blank canvas is perfect. That's the best thing that you can do. If you have a messy room, just if you need to, shove everything to the other side because all they can see is what your webcam shows. So if you have to, make it work the way that's best for you. Set up just a little area, but it is very important that you are the focal point, that you don't have anything else distracting going on, because doing a virtual career fair can be a little bit scary. And if you have other things that are going on that are going to be distracting you, it can be very frustrating for the recruiter that you're trying to interact with. And it can also be frustrating for you if you're trying to do your best, but things are loud going off in the background, different things like that. The next thing you want to do is make sure that your lighting is okay. I know this seems silly, but sometimes it's really dark in a room. Try to get some natural light if you can. Just makes it a little bit easier for the recruiter to see you through the webcam and everything like that. Try to turn on some lights, get a lamp if you need to. There's also a ton of things you can get off Amazon, just like little clip lights that can go onto your laptop. Anything is helpful, just making sure that you have full visibility, just like you would be if you were meeting this person face to face. And then hitting again on the dress. Professional dress is so important, just like a normal interview. And also, if you're gonna like put on a button-up shirt and a tie, but then wear pajama pants, make sure that you don't stand up. Like, that's totally okay if you do that, but make sure that you're always keeping that in mind, that anything that's visible to the webcam can be seen by the recruiter. So make sure that you're putting on that professional front. Any questions so far? All right, moving right along here. Maybe, there we go.
So do you have any idea when when an upcoming career fair might be? I try to keep up with all this stuff, but I'm pretty busy with school and work.
I just put a couple of links in the chat. We have a
Perfect.
Work and Learn fair coming up on October 7th, and then November 11th, we have a career fair. And that's just for Ivy Tech, but if you're looking for other, outside of Ivy Tech, I can find information for you as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's also an easy thing to kind of go online and just Google virtual career fairs near me. Now that everything is virtual, that does kind of open up a lot of other opportunities for you to get involved in places that maybe that you wouldn't have been able to go to before. So maybe not something that's like here locally, or maybe something that you wouldn't have known about previously. A lot of virtual career fairs are open to more individuals than what they would be if they were being held in person. So keep an eye out online for different things. LinkedIn is a great way to hear about different things like that, especially joining different LinkedIn groups for different things that maybe you're studying or are involved with. That's a great way to get connected with opportunities, and virtual career fairs create a great way to get connected with that. So during the career fair, I think the most important thing that you can do is take a lot of notes. I know as a recruiter, I'm doing this, but I can tell whether or not the individuals that I'm talking to on the other side are also taking notes. If you're going to a career fair and talking to, even 5 or 6 companies, or maybe even just 3, at some point, all those individuals are going to kind of run together. So make sure that you take notes on each individual company and try to write down some different things that distinguish them from the others, so that when you go to follow up and talk with those recruiters later, you can recall the exact conversation that you had, and you aren't bringing up things that you had in other conversations with other recruiters. Make sure that, if you had an interesting conversation, maybe you had a connection, maybe you met with someone that is from the same town as you, or you have the same type of dog or something like that. Those are great things to bring up in conversation later that you're going to forget if you don't take those notes down. So make sure that you time to remember everything that you discussed. Don't let that time go to waste. The next thing you're going to want to do is introduce yourself. Employees are almost always going to be outgoing and friendly, and they're going to expect you to at least try to do the same. They don't expect everyone to be, big, smiley, outgoing, type of person, but they are going to expect that you smile, introduce yourself, and get the conversation started. They're super nice. Recruiters are not mean. They want the best for you. They want to hire great people. They just want to have a conversation and learn about you. They're going to ask you questions, and you're going to ask them questions. Just try to teach it, treat it like a normal conversation that you would have with anyone else, but obviously keeping it very professional. They are here to meet you, and you are there to meet them. So there's no need to feel nervous or anything like that. Next thing is asking questions. Make sure that you're asking questions that are going to be specific to the company, finding out what's important to you. So go in with maybe a list of questions that you can ask every company. And then if you've done that research ahead of time, you can have some questions that are specific to the company. And one thing that's great about having those questions ready in advance is you can kind of hint that you went on their website and did your research, which is impressive. So use that to your advantage to say, oh, hey, I went on your website and I saw that you guys are doing this, or I saw you have this event coming up. That's really cool. Like, Are you involved in that at all? Or you know, asking them about their specific positions. Some of them are going to be in talent acquisition, but others may be, you know, working on teams that you would eventually be working on. So asking about how they got involved with the company, what they like about the company. Those are personal connections that you can make as well that are really helpful. The next thing you're going to want to do is send your resume to them or get contact information, at least determine next steps. Virtual career fairs are all very different in how you get connected with the recruiters afterwards. And it's not as easy as when you're in person, you shake their hand, you meet them, and you take a business card and they take a copy of your resume. You need to make sure that you initiate getting that next step information so that you can either follow up with them or that they have your contact information to follow up with you. Otherwise, you may have met this person and then not have any way to follow up with them, especially if you didn't take any notes. So always recommend writing their name down. If they share their email address, write that down, and then ask them, how would you prefer that I get in contact with you? Would you like for me to send my information? Are there things that you'd like for me to include? Or should I give you my information and you'll follow up with me, and then write down what that's going to be so that later after you talk to, you know, 6 more companies, you're not like, well, how do I get in touch with that person? How am I going to follow up? Did they have jobs available? All that is information you should be taking down and keeping with you. So definitely recommend making sure that you have next steps determined and then jotted down in your notes. Any questions? Everyone feeling good?
I do have a question because that's just my nature.
Love it.
Are there a couple of canned questions that you typically ask employers if you haven't done your research, but like, you know, specific to a company? What are some good starting off questions that a student can ask?
That's a great question. I think going in with a couple basic questions is great, especially if you just happen upon a company that you weren't necessarily planning on reaching out to and you didn't have time to do research. Say you're just, you know, like if you were at a normal career fair, you might just be walking by and happen upon a booth. So I think, you know, asking that initial question is, even if you did do the research, you can say, first off, you know, like I did do a little bit of research in the company and I'm very interested in this and this and this, but can you tell me a little bit about what you do? Then I would also recommend asking, making sure that you're aware of what types of positions that they're hiring for. I would get that out of the way at the beginning of the conversation. You know, make sure you're getting across in your introduction, which I'll get to in a minute here, what you're looking for. You know, say if you're looking for like an internship or if you're looking for a full-time job and they only offer the other, then you might want to make your conversation a little bit quicker, kind of getting that out of the way up front. Then I would recommend asking about some of the things you can ask right now are like, what are some things that have changed in your day-to-day due to COVID? Do you have different safety guidelines that you have to, you know, comply with? You can ask things about, you know, what is a normal day-to-day in the type of position that you have open? What would that look like? What are some of the qualities that you're looking for in potential members of your team? What are some different technical things that I can do research on or study, or certifications that you would recommend to individuals? I think those are always helpful questions to ask. And then if you have done research, looking at their website and asking about anything that they have coming up on their like events calendar, asking about things like their mission statement, different things like that are always helpful, trying to make those personal connections. There's also a lot of great resources online. I know Indeed shares so many great articles on giving you information on, you know, how to have conversations with recruiters, how to have virtual interviews, how to set up your resume in a way that's, you know, gets your information across in a way that's helpful and different things like that. Oh, that's a great one. For anyone who didn't just see in the comments, Kevin B just said his favorite question is, how do you measure success and what is your mission statement? That's awesome. Great question. How do you measure success? And I think that that's something that you can also make a little bit more personal to their team. So how is success measured on your team? For different types of technical jobs too, I know sometimes that may be measured in like actual numbers, like are there key performance indicators that you have on your team? Or is it just like, you know, having a day-to-day, and how do you measure success in terms of soft skills? I also think that asking about soft skills is a great question. You know, what soft skills are you looking for your specific team? What type of personality do you generally look for? Those are also great questions as well.
I would also add that especially if you're going to an industry-specific career fair or employer, making sure that you understand the jargon and that you can use it pretty freely, like KPIs. Not everybody knows what that is. Those are key
Yeah.
indicators. That's a common business term, and it's starting to seep into IT as well. So that's just another thing I'd like to add.
Definitely. I think that's really important. And that's one thing that can come into play. Just, doing your research ahead of time, being on the company's website is going to help you figure out what some of those words are and some of the terms as well. Another thing you can also do that can be really helpful is if you know what companies are going to be there, look at some of the job descriptions they have on their website and see, if you have any experience in the areas that they might already be looking. It's great to reference job descriptions as well. So if you're talking to a recruiter and you just saw a job description that they had posted, ask them about the different jobs that they have, ask about, what are some of the responsibilities, or if you see something on there that looks interesting to you or that looks unique or fun, that's a great thing to include in your conversation as well. Okay. I think so tell me about yourself, or what's your elevator pitch, or like, okay, I'd love to hear about you. That is a question that's probably going to be asked in every single conversation that you have with a recruiter, a manager, anyone at a career fair. This is probably going to be the first thing that they ask is, who are you and what do you want? That's the reason that you're here. So going into this prepared with your elevator pitch is going to be so important because you're going to have this conversation with everyone. So making sure that you come in, you've practiced it, you feel good about it, you can recite it from memory. That's going to be great. And then it also starts off every conversation for you. So if you don't know where to start with a recruiter, you're going to start off by telling them your name and a little bit about yourself. So it just kind of takes a little bit of the pressure off, knowing that they're probably going to ask this. So your pitch does need to be quick and concise. You want to be confident with what you're saying. This is the one thing that you know that they're going to ask, so make sure that you're doing it perfectly. Come in ready to recite this. You're going to want to confidently and concisely summarize your skills and experience. And I would recommend taking anywhere from like 15 to 30 seconds, maybe a little bit longer, depending on the amount of experience that you have or how much you know about that company specifically. But you want to explain who you are, what you do, and what you're seeking. You're going to want to highlight what makes you valuable, some things that make you unique, different things about maybe like your passions or accomplishments. Keep this concise, especially, but it does make it so that it's a little bit more, personal. Give like a specific supporting example. I think being very, very specific in this section is important. Clear, concise, to the point is going to be the name of the game here. You want to tell about yourself, but you also don't need to tell them everything. So obviously you'll have later conversations to get into more details, but this is just your first time to kind of get across a little bit about yourself. So I recommend setting up your pitch like this. So start off with who you are, what you do, and what you're looking for. So here's like a quick example that I kind of put together. So I would say, hi, like my name is Karis, and I am currently in my final semester studying computer science at Ivy Tech. And through my classes, I've actually learned about object-oriented fundamentals, and I've gained a lot of Java development experience. This past semester, I actually created a registration application in a project that I'm really proud of. And I'm looking for a full-time position following my graduation in December. I'd love to have a position where I can be mentored and gain some enterprise experience. That's a great way to just kind of who you are, what you're doing. I mentioned a project that I did that I was really proud of. And then I said specifically, I'm looking for a full-time position and when I would be able to start that position. So that kind of gets across those main details. I know I mentioned at the beginning, asking them what types of opportunities that they hire for. Just this gets this out of the way. So if you say, hey, I'm looking for full-time positions, they might say, oh, actually, like, I'm really only hiring for internships right now, but later on I would have some full-time positions, or vice versa. So this just gets across all of the information that you need to them so that they know how to direct their conversation. Then you can ask questions and move forward based on, how they respond to this. You can make it a little bit longer if you feel that you have the time. Maybe you're doing like a one-on-one with a recruiter and you're going to have 10 minutes to chat with them. But if you're in more of like a group session or anything like that, this is something that you can do to just quickly get that information across. Okay, I saw someone put their hand up.
Yeah, that was me. just out of curiosity, does it necessarily look bad if you're particularly looking for for a full-time job, or if you're also open to an internship for more hands-on experience?
Oh, I definitely don't think that looks bad. I think that's something that you could mention as well. So like if you are looking for a full-time job, but would be open to taking an internship in the meantime, that's totally something that you can mention and would open you up to a couple more opportunities, maybe than if you're just seeking that full-time opportunity. You can even say something like, I'm seeking a position where I can gain hands-on experience. So I would be open to a full-time position or an internship wherever I can, really utilize my skills the best and learn, additional things that I can take into a future full-time role. I think just specifying that as well is easy. Oh, okay. What difficulties would I face as someone whose English is not very good? I think that's totally something that's okay as well. In a virtual interview, making sure, first of all, that you have good internet and a good speaker system set up so that the sound that's coming through is very clear so that you're hearing things correctly. I think that's important for anyone, even if, that's not necessarily something that you're dealing with. That's going to be a big practice thing. So practicing your pitch, making sure that you're very confident. Speak through this with someone else who can help you if you do have some issues, getting across your elevator pitch. Practice the questions that you're going to ask. And I also think that it is okay to make that known to whoever you're talking to, and just say, English is my second language, but I do speak pretty well, or, give kind of an indicator at how quickly they can speak or anything like that. But it's okay to just say, English is my second language. So I may ask you to repeat something a little bit slower if it doesn't come across as well. And also the good thing right now is a lot of positions, are remote, and most things are going to be done through the computer anyway. You may not even need to be talking to people like over the phone or, through Zoom calls. A lot of things are going to happen through email, through chats, different things like that. So that's something that can be used to your advantage. But I definitely think it's okay to disclose that at the beginning and just say, hey, I may ask you to repeat something, or I may need a little bit of clarification here and there. Totally something that's okay. Any other questions about elevator pitch? Is this something that you guys feel comfortable with, or something that you've done before?
Karis, hi, my name is Karen. I have a quick question.
Hi, Karen.
So where I kind of fail sometimes, I feel like is, sometimes technology just fails you when you're doing your virtual pitch and you realize that, there's no, how do you overcome that? There's no, you're not standing in front of the person. This is virtual. And how do you?
Yeah, I totally get that. And I think that, I know I mentioned at the beginning, everyone is kind of dealing with the same thing. So you as a candidate is not necessarily having more or less issues than the recruiter on the other side of it. A lot of times, at least for myself, most of the universities that I work with have different platforms that they're using. So most of the time I'm using a platform that I've never used before, I'm not necessarily comfortable with. Usually they send out information before the career fair or before, whatever it is you're going to be using virtually, whether it's, like an interview platform or anything like that. And I would say that's just another time to do your research. So they probably send out, tutorials or, like a frequently asked questions document. Just have that on hand, and always recommend going in a couple minutes early to test out whatever platform you're utilizing, especially if it's for an interview, to make sure that you don't need to download an application. If you do need to download an application, make sure you've given yourself time to do that. Make sure you know how to use things like the mute button. If you're going to need to share your screen, make sure you know how to do that. Obviously, people are very, very understanding of technical difficulties. So say you do say your elevator pitch and you get halfway through and the other person is like, hey, you're on mute. that's totally okay. Like, it happens to everybody all the time. It's not a big deal. So don't be embarrassed about that. Laugh it off. Say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Let me start over. Still, you know, I think it's okay to just be like, you know, still navigating this virtual world, and everybody gets that. So don't feel nervous about little things like that, but definitely prepare yourself as best you can beforehand, and utilize any resources that you have or that are given to you, so that you can avoid that as much as possible. I think that's the best way to help prepare for those different times, but don't be embarrassed if you do have technical difficulties, especially ones that are, you know, silly things like forgetting to, you know, unmute yourself or something like that. Not a big deal whatsoever. Any other questions right now? Cool. Okay. After the career fair, the first thing that you're going to want to do is follow up. You can do this later in the afternoon on that day, or you can do it the next day. You're going to want to follow up on any information that you jotted down while you were talking to the recruiter. And if they want to follow up with specific information, make sure that you have all that included that you promised them. So if you said, hey, I'm going to send you a copy of my resume, or hey, I'm going to send you times that I'm available for a call, or hey, I'm going to send you my portfolio or my GitHub, or some copies of my projects that I've done. Anything that you promised them that you would send them, make sure that you include in this message. Include your contact information, make sure they have your email address and your phone number, and remind them of the conversation that you had. This is where it really helps for you to take notes, is you wrote down, oh, we talked about our dogs and we have the same kind, and that was so fun. So say something like, hey, this is Karis. We chatted at the career fair yesterday. It was such a pleasure speaking with you. I hope your puppy Spot is doing okay. And those little connections will really make your conversations stand out among others, because they are going to be talking to tons of individuals. So any way that you can reference your conversation, or if they mention certain things like, you know, you mentioned that a data analytics job might be something that would be open. I would love to continue chatting about that. Or you mentioned that you may have internships coming up this summer. I'd love to continue our conversation and learn more how I can get involved. Anything that you can include there, make sure that you really think out this message before you send it, and include anything that you promised. And say thank you. You know, the recruiters that come to talk to a lot of people, it's a long day, just like it is for you. So say thank you for attending and bringing the opportunities and the knowledge that they have as well. They really appreciate that. And then I would recommend connecting on LinkedIn. Go in and find them, connect. You can send a message and say, hi, just wanted to follow up. We met at the career fair, whenever you send your connection request. So I think that that is definitely helpful to include where you met them. Recruiters generally are pretty open with their, you know, accepting connections, but it is helpful to send a little message on where you met. And then it's also important for you to have your LinkedIn up to date once you send that connection, because they're probably going to accept and then click on your profile. And then they can look at you, they'll remember, they'll see your face. So make sure you have a picture up there that's up to date, so they can see you and say, oh yeah, I remember talking to them. And then they can see all your information about what you're studying in school, you know, what your degree's in, different positions that you've had, or different interests, or different things like that. So that's always very helpful as well. So just a reminder to definitely update your LinkedIn. And last but not least, high five, you got this. Career fairs are a great way to get connected, and they know that you're coming in looking for a job. They're bringing the jobs. They want to talk to you. They come to the career fairs to meet students like you. That is the sole purpose of why they're there. So don't feel nervous going in. Come in with, you know, a positive attitude and just excited for opportunities that may come along. You may happen upon someone that ends up having a job that's perfect for you. So just be open to whatever comes your way. Keep a smile on your face. Be ready to chat about your background, your experience, and just to connect in whatever ways possible, because career fairs are great ways to find positions, especially for you know, individuals like you that are connected through Ivy Tech. There are so many opportunities that come about that way. So be open to them, and keep your ears and your eyes open for those different opportunities that may come through. I would love to open the floor now for just questions, anything that you guys are curious about, whether that be virtual interviewing, virtual career fairs, anything like that. I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen now.
Hey, yeah, it's me, Steve. So, a lot of students may be graduating this year in December. However, one of my professors, Matthew Cloud, recommended me taking some extra courses in spring, so I'm doing so. What, should there be still be a good amount of career fairs that pertain to students graduating in spring of 2021?
Yes, there will be. We'll we haven't looked at spring yet because we're kind of playing everything by ear still with COVID, but we are always going to have a major recruiting event in the spring.
Yeah. All right, thanks. I know I'm working ahead, but it's
Oh
better.
yeah,
I
we
just
love
want to make
that.
Yeah,
Yes.
That shows planning and organization, and that's a soft skill or employability skill, as we like to call them now, that employers love. So
yeah.
Most places do recruiting events, I would say, in the spring and in the winter. So like I said, look for those other places that might be doing virtual events that you can get involved with, that maybe aren't even just through your school. LinkedIn is a great place to look for that. You can also just Google like virtual career fairs, or like free virtual career fairs. Those are great ways to find opportunities. And a lot of positions now are fully remote and are going to continue to be fully remote indefinitely. So that also opens a lot of positions that you may not have had access to beforehand that now can be done fully through your computer at home. So definitely keep an eye out for some positions like that you may be fully qualified for, or located in other areas that you wouldn't have been able to work in before.
Sorry, can I ask one more question?
Of course.
So what I'm running into is the fact that, when I go into an interview, the first thing they ask you is, when are you graduating?
Mm-hmm.
And my problem is, as a mother of two and someone who works full-time already and is trying to get into this, I can't really take more than 7 or 8 credits every semester. So it's going to take me a minute to graduate. So how do I convince the person looking at me like I'm worth the risk? Like, is internships the only way, or?
No, I think that's totally fine. And you are definitely not the only person in that situation. There are a lot of individuals that are taking school, a little bit by bit. And I think that's something you can say if they ask you when your graduation date is. Maybe another way to spin that answer is to just let them know how far you are right now. So actually right now I'm, this far into my education, I've been working a full-time job, and then really explaining what you're looking for. I think a lot of positions, degrees are preferred or maybe an option, not necessarily always something that's required. And especially someone that's already pursuing your degree, that shows them that that's something that you're working towards. And I think it's okay to just be transparent about that. And I think that recruiters are very receptive to that answer, to just kind of explain the situation in a concise way. But rather than say, like, well, I don't really know, just more so explain, this is where I am so far. And, this is my opportunity that I'm kind of looking for. So if you are looking for a full-time job right now, or you are open to an internship, it's okay to say that.
Thank you.
Do you have any more to add to that, Jessica? I feel like.
Yeah, actually I do. Especially adult learners that are making that pivot, what you have done in your professional life does matter. So even speaking to that, being like, I've been in this industry for so long, and I'm making that pivot to IT. So this is what I'm going to bring to you while I'm learning these skills, these technical skills, that could really set you apart.
Yeah, I always think that it's very important to, if you don't recognize this ahead of time, to do some research on some of the transferable skills that you do have from other positions, because there are so many things that you learn in those other roles. Obviously, those are soft skills as well. But there may even be more things than you realize that are involved in your previous positions when you are career changing, that are going to help you. I think one thing that I always recommend to individuals is like going online and looking at job descriptions for the type of jobs that you'd be interested in, and looking at the requirements, the day-to-day responsibilities, and seeing if any of those line up with what you have already been doing, because there are going to be certain, things in the day-to-day where you're like, well, I wasn't necessarily working it with working in that capacity, but I was doing this, which is very related, and here's why. And I think kind of making those connections for like a recruiter who is focused maybe in, technical type of roles and may not be familiar with the career path that you had beforehand, showing them what you've already done that's applicable, because they may not know.
So I have, Steve, do you have your hand up? Did you have another question, or is that left over?
Oh, sorry. I guess you have to click it again.
Yeah, it's okay. Totally. I just want to make sure that I wasn't cutting in line. In terms of actually landing an interview virtually, I'm assuming that the same rules of, being in an environment that's, conducive to that as a career fair applies to an interview. But are there any other tips that you might have for conducting a really awesome virtual interview?
Yes, totally. I think that the best thing that you can do for a virtual interview is get yourself educated on the STAR method of interviewing. If you find that you get lost when you're trying to explain your background, your experience, what you're looking for, the STAR method, STAR, I can type this in the chat. STAR interviewing. It basically helps you walk through behavioral questions that they might ask, which are going to be asked in pretty much every interview. And it helps you move through the situation in a way that makes sense without rambling. And it's very helpful to explain how you respond in different, situations, whether or not, they're directly related to the position that you are, applying for or interviewing for. Like Jessica mentioned, there are so many applicable skills that you have from your other positions, like working with customer service, or, working with a new technology, or working with a new software, or like working with a new team. All of those things are transferable to new positions, but you just kind of have to explain why it's relevant. So I would definitely recommend looking up that STAR interview method, and then going through the job description that they've provided for you, and looking at the different requirements and the daily duties. And like I said, pulling out anything that maybe you've done before that was related, and having examples already written down on the job description. If you can print it out, that's great. But having those examples already ready in your head, so that when they ask that you can kind of expect are going to come up, you already have an answer. There's always going to be questions that you can't, prepare for or expect coming into it, but you can pretty much expect that they're going to ask you about the requirements that are already listed on the job description. So use that to your advantage, and use all the information that you have in order to prepare yourself for different questions that they may ask. I think that's one of the best things that you can do going into an interview. I think there's so many times when I've talked to candidates and been interviewing them for positions, and I'll say something that was very clearly listed in the job description, and they have no clue like that it was even involved, and I had already sent them the job description, and that's so frustrating for someone who has given you all the information and then you don't use it. So make sure that you're using everything that they give. Steven, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, I raised it again. I actually do have a question about
Yeah.
So I probably filled out about maybe 50 plus applications within the last few weeks, trying to get a head start into my field. And almost every position I come across, it's saying certain amount of years experience. And obviously internships would be a great way to get around that obstacle. But however, would internships necessarily be enough to to represent my experience? I'm going into data analytics, so obviously that's a new but very technical field, and it's important to if they do want experience, it's important to represent that. Let's say, like a 6-month internship, would that be, would that qualify for the majority of companies, you believe?
Do you want to start, Jessica, or you want me to go?
You go, and then I'll add whatever you
Okay.
don't.
Perfect. I think that is definitely okay for a lot of different positions. I think one thing that a lot of people are struggling with right now is they are sending out a lot of different applications. And I think that the thing I can best recommend is quality over quantity. Definitely apply for a lot of jobs, but make sure that you're not wasting your time applying for positions that are going to require 5 years of experience and applying for positions that are looking for, like 0 to 3 years of technical experience. Professional experience. And yes, that 6-month internship that you have is definitely counting in that. And I think that making sure that you're really being thoughtful in the applications that you are sending out. I think that it's important to adjust your resume depending on the type of position that you're applying for, making sure you're including relevant experience that you have to each specific position. Remember that whenever you apply for a position, especially if you're applying directly through a job board and you aren't meeting people through like career fairs and things like that, all that the recruiter or the hiring manager, whoever's looking at your resume, sees is what you have on that piece of paper. So making sure that you're, representing yourself in the best way possible and putting your best foot forward. Any experience that you have that's relevant, that's helpful, make sure it's clearly listed. You want your resume to read like the type of position that you want to have. So being very intentional with what you include is so important rather than, applying for as many jobs as you can is great, but making sure that you're putting in quality applications is going to be very helpful, because since the unemployment rate is a little higher right now, there's going to be more people applying for each position. So you want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward, because you probably do have a lot of great experience and you might make a great fit for that position. But if you don't have a resume that is conducive of that, then you might be skipped over.
And I was just going to add that it's not just the internship that you need to look at. There's also opportunities for you to do like virtual volunteering through volunteermatch.org, or, just working your network and seeing if there's anything that you can do to gain that hands-on experience, as well as the projects that you are doing in class. That all accumulates into experience. What they're looking at is that you know what you're doing ultimately, and that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a work experience.
Definitely. I think including relevant projects that you've done, anything that you may be doing on the side that's relevant to what you're looking for. If you have other projects just from your personal interest that are related to the type of job that you might be interested in. And also there are a lot of ways online that you can gain like certifications and other experiences, even just outside of regular school. So doing some research into what might be related to your job choice of type or your job title that you're interested in, or the area that you're interested in going into, and seeing what different things you might be able to add to your resume for free online.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions? We have like 10 minutes left.
After you've completed a virtual interview, what are some of the best practices that a student can do or a candidate can do to follow up to ensure that they have a good reputation afterwards?
Yeah, for sure. I think definitely post-interview follow-up is important. I know that it used to be pretty standard that the best practice would be to like write a physical letter and send that. I think that can be very helpful, but also it's a little bit slower, obviously, than sending a follow-up email. I would say within 24 hours. I wouldn't say probably like the second you get back to your car, but within 24 hours, I would send a follow-up message to the hiring manager. Email is probably going to be the best way for that. But sending something that says, first of all, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed interviewing, mentioning something that you learned that you maybe really enjoyed or you didn't know before. And then following up, expressing your interest in the position and why you feel that you'd be a good fit. Keep it concise and quick, but also make sure that it's personal. You know, you can use some sort of template from online, but make sure you're really personalizing it to the conversations that you had with whoever that manager was. And then I think it's also okay, dependent on the situation, to kind of ask when you should expect to hear back, or how is the best way for me to follow up. And then you can kind of follow whatever guidelines they set. And then they may say, oh, we'll get back with you within 2 weeks, or we'll get back with you within 48 hours. Or they might say something like, you know, check back in a week or so and I'll let you know. But ask them how they would prefer that you follow up from that point. And that's something that you can ask towards the end of an interview as well. Just asking what next steps look like, making sure that you have that plan going in.
It's fantastic.
And if you haven't connected with the hiring managers on LinkedIn yet, do that. If you haven't, didn't meet them at a career fair, you just interview with them later. Make sure you know their name and you write that down and connect with them on LinkedIn.
Speaking of LinkedIn, from a recruiter's perspective, when you see a student or a candidate that's really active and is like sharing posts and commenting on things, does that put them in a better position for consideration, do you think? Especially if IT related?
I think it brings up your profile to people who may not have seen it otherwise. I think being active on LinkedIn is great. Sharing things that are relevant, especially to your areas of interest, and commenting on, you know, different connections that you have when they have, like, you know, say if someone that you interviewed with just had their 1-year anniversary at whatever company that, you know, they work at, say congratulations, like quickly comment. You'll get notifications about your connections, and you can literally hit an automatic response that says like congratulations, or this is awesome, or like way to go. And those are super easy ways to just stay connected with individuals on LinkedIn. Obviously it's not Facebook and you don't want to treat it like Facebook, but it is a great way to have your name pop up to different individuals who may have met you before, and it would be a quick reminder of like, oh, hey, yeah, I remember that person. Like I met them at that career fair. And I think it's a good way to learn also about the companies that you are applying for. Connecting with individuals who work at that company on LinkedIn is helpful. Following whatever company that is on LinkedIn, because then you'll see updates of what they're doing. And then that gives you a lot of information that you can speak about in your interview, in your conversations with the recruiters. Oh, I actually follow you guys on LinkedIn, and I saw that your company just did like a philanthropy, you know, project. That's so cool. Like, were you involved in that? And it's just a great conversation piece. And it shows that you did your research, which is also great. Any other questions or things I can help out with here in the last couple minutes? Everybody feeling good? Awesome. Oh.
Sorry, I hope it's okay. I sent you a request to connect. And
Perfect. I'll type my email address in here. If everyone wants to, you know, send over a resume and your contact information, I'd love to, you know, follow up and have conversations with you. I know I briefly mentioned the types of opportunities that we generally see with the companies that we work with. But I can also help, you know, I'm an additional career service for you. I love to answer questions about your resume, or if you are doing a virtual interview that you're nervous about or need help with, I can schedule a call and I can help you out with those different things. So please feel free to, you know, ask questions or, you know, anything that you might need during this time of applying for, you know, new roles, navigating virtual career fairs, navigating virtual interviews. I love to help out with different things like that. Then I can also see if we have any opportunities that might be a fit for you. We really focus on anyone who has that 0 to 3 years of technical experience and professional experience. And I can help you as well to kind of pull out some of those things that maybe you have, soft skills, other skills that you may have from previous jobs that you didn't, or that you got in projects or internships or anything like that. Whatever is most helpful to you guys.
And I did just post the direct link to the Elevate and Project Patriot websites for Brooksource, and this is where
Love
you can
it.
find more information about the program that she's speaking of.
Yes, of course. And we can also, I'd love to set up a call and I can talk more in detail about the program and all of that as well. But feel free to send over your resumes to my email address. It's just my first and last name at brooksource.com. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully getting to connect with all of you.
Thank you so much, Karis. This was great information, and I really appreciate it, especially since we have a couple of those events coming up here in the next month or two. So,
Awesome.
And students, I'll be following up this session with a link to the recording, as well as different things that we talked about during this hour. So you have those resources in your email, okay?
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful Wednesday.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Kieran.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.